Hey everybody, it's me, Matt Avery, again with another episode of the RaceDay Scoring version 3 launch series. So today we're going to be going through RelayTeams, talking a little bit about the team structure in RaceDay Scoring version 3, how it all works, how all the different pieces are tied together, and gives you a really good general overview of teams in RaceDay Scoring. And then the following week, we're going to be doing a session on aggregate teams, which kind of builds on this previous knowledge that we'll learn today. And then the week after that, we'll be doing a special session on cross country, which will build on the week before. So we're going to be doing a lot of learning today. So definitely watch the video, pay attention, and feel free to review it after the fact once we get it posted. So today, what I'm going to start with is just a few definitions about what team scoring is. But before we get started, if we're used to using the webinar, as I'm sure many of you are now, you can always go ahead and type in any questions you have along the way. I have Chris McDonald on backup duty, ready to respond to your questions, and he will bring up any questions to me that he thinks need to be addressed as we're going through. I will be doing a demo in the app itself once we go through some of my slides, and then after that, we're going to open it up for questions. We have a little bit more time today than usual, so we're going to be able to spend a little more time in the app itself and responding to relevant questions that come up. So let's get started. Like I said, we're going to be starting out with just some definitions. It's got a lot of moving parts, team scoring, so we want to make sure that everybody's on the same page. So be aware, some of the settings that I'm going to cover today, like team types, team scoring rules, work slightly differently when using relay versus aggregate scoring. And aggregate scoring is like your corporate team scoring or cross-country style scoring, where you're adding up times or points for all of the runners who are running the same distance at a 5K, whereas relay is everybody on the team is running just a small portion of the full distance. So, you know, your triathlon relay, one person's doing the swim leg, another person's doing the bike leg, so on and so forth. So that's the main difference between relay and aggregate. So today we're going to be discussing the different team options as they relate to relay team scoring. Aggregate team scoring, it's a little bit more complicated, and it builds on this previous knowledge we're going to go through today. So we have a whole special session for that next week. All right, so what is a team? It sounds like a really silly thing to define, but it is important, and I want to just give you an overview. So basically just a group of participants. It's pretty straightforward, pretty simple. Sometimes teams are set up and used for scoring. Other times they're just used for a social aspect. So you'll see a lot of events that set up registration. They just have a social team thing, or they may have some kind of system where they are saying, okay, the team who gets the most amount of members gets a special t-shirt made for them or something like that. So they have it set up on their RunSignup page just to keep track for other reasons. Teams, they can have members from different registration events. So the way that we have implemented it in RaceDay Scoring is that teams now can have a member in multiple different events. So this isn't too useful for relay, but it's super useful for aggregate. A lot of times they'll have in cross country, for instance, you know, one team that has boys and girls in it, right? And if the high school team has boys and girls, so you don't want to have separate teams for the boys and separate teams for the girls. So we made it really easy with this new version of RaceDay Scoring to support this. Next item is that teams can have a team bib or chip number, but they're not required to. So there is this concept in RunSignup and RaceDay Scoring of a team bib. And you can utilize that, but you're not required to. I'll talk a little bit more about that later. The next point is that teams are always a part of a single team type. So what I'm going to be going through next is what the heck is a team type? So before we go into that, in RaceDay Scoring, you can always view teams under the Participants tab, click the Teams header, and you can see your list of teams in here. You can click on them and view the members for them. And on the individual members lookup, you can also see their team association and so on and so forth. Okay, so what are team types and classifications? These are a category of teams. These are a way to group teams together. So for instance, you might have some teams that are 2-person all-male relay, some teams that are 4-person all-female relay. This is a categorization of different types of teams. Now, it's possible that some teams have age and gender restrictions. On RunSignup, sometimes they will set up like, hey, I want to make sure that nobody is able to register for this team type or create a team of this team type and get members into that team that are over the age of 40 or something. So it's all possible to set that up, and we have those settings in RaceDay scoring, but it's not a requirement. A lot of times those are completely ignored and open-ended. But it's good to know that that is there. So in RaceDay scoring, what we do is we automatically set up team types in RaceDay scoring from the RunSignup group types. So it's basically the same feature on RunSignup. They call them groups, we call them teams. And what happens when you load up a race in RaceDay scoring that's connected to RunSignup, if that race has teams and team or groups set up, those group types and teams will come down into RaceDay scoring, and you'll be able to utilize those categorizations that the registration coordinator had set up. It's also possible when you're creating a race in RaceDay scoring to just manually create these team classifications and teams on the back end. So if you wanted to just start fresh in RaceDay scoring, you're not using RunSignup at all, you can import from a simple spreadsheet of like participant data, team name, and team types. You can even create team types right in the import process if you needed to. A lot of times you're starting from a fresh database, you don't have the team types loaded. All you have to do is include a column called team type in your spreadsheet, and it will, if you map that in the team or the participant import, it will say, hey, I don't know what to do with all of these teams because I don't have any team types, and it'll prompt you to create a team type to put all of those teams in. All right, so some more things about team types. A single event can have multiple team types within it. For instance, you may have a 50-mile run. That 50-mile run could have a whole slew of team types. It could have 2-person all-male, 4-person all-male, 2-person all-female, 4-person all-female, 2-person co-ed, 4-person co-ed, so on and so forth, but they are all running the same distance. So that's the scored event in RaceDay scoring. So it's possible to have all of these different team types within the single scored event. Now, it's also possible to combine those team types for scoring if those members of the teams within that team type share the same event. So with relays, that's usually the case. You usually have like, a 50-mile run and you got a bunch of teams in it, and you want to make sure that everybody who's part of the team is also part of that event. So that's really nice for Aggregate, which we'll talk about next week, but for Relay, it doesn't really matter too much. So each team type has its own team scoring rules. So it's possible to have different team scoring rules at the team type level, but I'll just walk through these really quick first. In RaceDay scoring, you can find team types under the age groups, team classifications, under the team classifications header here. You can see all the team types listed, all male and co-ed in this case. And if you clicked in, you could see some of the information about this team type. So your name, the registration group type, if it's on RunSignup, it has a registration group type associated with it, a description, the scored events that are included in this team type. For this one, it's simple. It's just the relay is able to register for this. And the scoring rules, which I'll talk about next. And then these gender and size restrictions, which I was referring to before. A lot of events will enable these size and gender restrictions to make sure that participants are only entering teams that they're supposed to enter for. Okay, so the team scoring rules. This is how to rank and display team results. So for relays, you can tell the system whether you plan on your team members sharing the same bib number, or if they have their own individual bib numbers that are not the same. So this is a big question a lot of people have, like, well, when you're setting up relays, how do you want to do the bib assignments. So you have to think about this. You have to make sure that you plan ahead. Are you going to do it with each individual having its own bib number, or are you going to do it with every individual sharing the same bib number? And with RaceDay scoring, if you plan on sharing bib numbers, you can assign each member the same individual bib number, or you can assign a single team bib number. So this is a little bit different from those of you who may have used Race Director, where it doesn't like it if you give the same bib number to multiple people. With RaceDay scoring, you're allowed to do that. And in RelayTeams scoring, it actually doesn't care if you have some teams with a team bib and other teams with all individual bibs that just happen to match. The scoring will work exactly the same. So that's just a good factoid to know about. We don't care if you want to score it, with different bib numbers for each participant. Just make sure you set up your team scoring rules to do that. And if you want to make them share the same bib number, make sure you tell the system to do that. And you can set it up so individuals have the same bib number and there's no team bib. And you can set it up so there's a single team bib and individuals don't have any bib numbers, and it will work perfectly fine. So one thing that's specific to RelayTeams in RaceDay scoring is that the RelayTeams scoring rules must be set at the scored event level and can easily be applied to all team types that are associated with this scored event. So the way that we do scoring rules in RaceDay scoring is we allow everything to be kind of set on the team type, but we allow you to control it from the scored event setup. This just makes it easier. Most timers are used to walking through the scored event screen and making changes to, is it going to score by clock or score by chip? So in the scored event setup, you see a team scoring button, and that will allow you to say, hey, for all of these team types within this scored event, I'm going to apply all of these rules to them. And when you do that, when you change or save new team scoring rules, we actually delete and regenerate all the reports based on these settings you set up here. So I'm going to walk through a little bit more on those default reports and how those are all generated in just a minute. So in the app itself, you'll see a team scoring button on the scored event screen. So how this works is you're going into RaceDay scoring. You have to add all of your scored events first, save the screen, and then you can click the team scoring button. You can't click it until you save it, so make sure you save it first, and then click it, and it will allow you to set up team scoring rules. So I'll show you that next. So right in here, I have my two-person teams scored event, and I'm going to decide what scoring type I want to use. So for today, we're going to do relay, and I get to decide whether or not the team members have a common bib number. So simple yes or no there. So when I said that I want to score this as a relay event, what that does is it tells RaceDay scoring that, hey, I need to regenerate these reports. I'm going to delete the overall report, and it's going to generate a relay report for me now. So this is a big change from us on the last version of RaceDay scoring. You always had to manually build your relay reports, and it would default to build these overall reports, which are basically like it would be just a list of the members of teams and not the teams themselves. So now we're smart enough to know that, well, I don't really need this overall report from a relay event. I'm going to get rid of it and replace it with a new relay report, which will list out the teams themselves and not the individuals. So you'll just delete and continue. And then the next step is deciding how we are going to apply my team type rules, or my rules to my team types. So what this screen is doing is it's saying, I see that there are co-ed teams, all male teams, and all female teams within this scored event, or that are associated with this scored event. And I have some new rules that I'm creating. I have decided that I'm going to make these all relay team types. So I have three options. I can either say, put all of these settings onto all of the team types below. That's the first setting, apply scoring rules to all team types. The next one is to only add scoring rules to team types without scoring rules. So if you had to do something where you had like a bunch of team types that were associated with more than one scored event and you needed to say, okay, I'm going to only adjust half of them or some of them and apply these settings to those that don't currently have settings, you could do that. It's very rarely used, and even less used is probably make no changes to team types. So generally, you would just leave it at the default here, apply everything to all of the associated team types, and you'll be good. So if you click Update Team Types, that will apply these new rules to the team types listed right here. And what happens on the next button press is that it actually will generate those new default reports I was talking about. So default reports in RaceDay scoring are our way of making some assumptions about what you want as a timer. So when you go in, you save scored events in RaceDay scoring, we say, oh, there's a 5K there. We're going to give you a list of all the 5K runners ordered by clock time or ordered by chip time or whatever you want. So we kind of just guess that you want a certain set of columns, and we spit out a report for you. So you can certainly go in and update those. You can customize them in any way you want. We just default these in because people would get really confused if there was no reports after making a setup. So we just started creating these defaults, and we've been doing more and more with trying to make them better and giving you an easier way to have your reports get updated. So default reports for relay scored events are generated when you enable the team scoring rules for the team scoring type set to relay team. So in the previous screen, we saw that when I saved the team type scoring rules, it said, hey, I already have a report for this scored event. It's called two-person teams overall report. It's a list of all the members of this, all the participants in this scored event based on the clock time or chip time. And it says, do you want to delete this because it wouldn't make any sense for a relay team? I want the teams list, not the members list, right? So this is exactly what's going on. I had already saved the scored events, so the system spit out this overall report, and now I want to replace it with what I actually want, which is my relay team report. So for the relay team default reports, this is really important to understand because we're making assumptions. We have to go one way or another, and we decide to combine all of the team types within the same scored event. Now, if you need to score team types separately, you can add in more report sections to the default report for each team type, or you can add separate reports for each team type. So when basically, I'll show you in the next couple of screenshots here. We always, by default, just put all the team types together. So make sure you understand that when you're first setting it up, it will do that. And if you want to, just go in and adjust your reports to split out each team type into separate sections if that's what you prefer. So note on that, when you are publishing team results or relay team results to RunSignup, a report that has multiple sections, it's actually going to create a separate result set for each section you have. So you could pretty easily just edit your default generated report with all of the team types included in one section, and you can add in individual sections for each separate team type. And what that would do is it would create a bunch of different result sets. If you left in the default section, it would create a result set with all of the teams, regardless of their team type, ordered by their time. And then you would have additional result sets for each and every separate report section that you had that is a separate team type. So that's what we see a lot of people doing is they will keep the default section that's built in there, and then they'll add in a few others because they may want to see, like for triathlon relay, all of the team types considered together in one list, but they also want to see them considered separately. So you may want to have, all your all male, all female, and co-eds in one big giant list, and you want to have them broken out separately. That's certainly possible. You just got to make sure that you configure it all in your reporting. So I'm going to just show you how that's done. So in this screenshot, you can see I have two reports. I have a two-person team's relay report, and then I have a four-person team's overall report. So the difference here is that this relay report is a relay report. It's a report of the teams. The overall report, I haven't set up team scoring rules yet because it doesn't say relay, it says overall. So this is actually going to have to get updated at some point. I haven't walked through that setup yet. That's how I know it's not right. So for this two-person teams relay report, what I want to do is, once it's been generated by saving the scored events after I've set up the team scoring rules, I want to go into Actions and Edit. And by default, we will see this new area here, which will list out all of the team types that are included in this section. So this section is going to have all the team types combined together. So it's going to list all the co-ed teams, all the male teams, all the female teams, in one big giant list. Now, if you want to, what you can do, and oh yeah, if you actually click this, it's a little button, and it will let you see what team types are selected for this report section. Now, if you want to, you can edit this and say, no, I only want to show the co-ed teams in this section. And then you could add in a section for all male and a section for all female, or you could leave it as is, have a report that is, or have a result set on RunSignup that is all the teams together, and create your individual sections for each separate team type. So if you wanted to add in a separate section, what you would do is use this little section on the left here, the add a report section. You will first select the event that you're adding a section for. So let's say two-person teams. And then it will allow you to add in a report section. So this report section button here is dependent on the type of teams that are available in the two-person team scored event. In this case, it's just relay teams. So what we have currently in RaceDay scoring is a single team summary report section type. So this is just all of the teams listed with their team name. It doesn't show the members. That's something we'll have later, but it will show just the team names and some associated information like their clock time or their chip time and so on and so forth. So when you click this team summary button, it's going to add in a new report section to the existing report you have, and it will give you this prompt on the right here to select which team type will be included in this report section. And it tells you if you select multiple team types, that will combine the teams into a single report section. Selecting one team type per report section, select one team type per report section if the team types are not scored together. So you could go through and add a team summary report section for each of these if you wanted them to be broken out by team type. So here you can see I've added a all female teams report section to this report. All right, so I'm about ready to go into the app a little bit, but before I get started with that, Chris, were there any questions that you think I should bring up?
Yeah, there's a question about reports for teams that do not meet certain criteria.
Yeah.
For example, if a team has to have X number of females, can you run a report for who did not meet that criteria?
No, so the way that works is they literally cannot register for the group if they do not meet their criteria. So it's impossible to get them entered, essentially. That's restricting the members from ever being part of it. So you wouldn't have that happen. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Cool. All right, so let's take a look at RaceDay scoring if I can ever figure out how to exit my screen. There we go. So let's say I have a race on RunSignup with some teams and groups created. Now, you don't have to have it on RunSignup. It's just pretty easy for me to demonstrate, so I'm going to do that. I'm going to go ahead and import a race already on RunSignup. And I'm going to do this relay demo. So what I will always do when I'm importing a race is just walk down the items on the left here. So very first thing, set up my participant sync so that all my syncing will begin and my participants will come down and my teams and my team types will also come down. So let's go into my participants and I want to just go ahead and force a sync so I don't have to wait 30 seconds. And I have some people in here. Got Got our RaceDay team members all in here along with Bob. Don't worry about the ages, they're just random I put in, and the addresses too. Not everybody lives in Philly. So let's take a look at what I have for teams. So if I click into teams up the top here in this participants teams tab, I see I have a few different teams, and I can click in and I can see that this team has 4 members: James, Bob, Brendan, and Jack. RaceDay scoring is pretty nice. We linked all these, so you can click to see their personal information, or go back to my team information. So you can see with this, I have a team bib assigned to this team here, but Shelly and Chelsea, they don't have a team bib number assigned, and they actually had their bib numbers assigned to their participants, the individuals. So 102 was actually given out to each individual instead of the team. Now it's perfectly fine. Like I said, I did that just to demonstrate that you can have a mixture, and RaceDay scoring doesn't care. It all works just fine. All right, so I have my teams and I have my participants. So we were walking through some descriptions before, and I said in order for a team to exist, you have to have your team types, right? So what happens is, in order to get any of these teams, I have to have team classifications or team types set up. So with RunSignup, what we do is we just say, hey, I see all these group types on RunSignup. I'm just going to create them in RaceDay scoring. So it's going to create these all female teams, all male, and co-ed teams. So if you go to RunSignup and go to participants, groups, teams, show more, setup, you can see that I have these group types, which are getting pulled down into RaceDay scoring. They're made available to the 2-person team event and the 4-person team event. So that all comes down to here, and I see that I have, these different team types. So let's continue on. I have seen how I can get to the team classification and the teams. If you need to, these are pretty handy. You can just toggle back and forth between the team types page and the teams page just with this little button here. If you want to, you can also access team classifications from the age groups, but you can't do that yet because it's set score events. So let's continue on through the setup here. So today I'm not gonna do streams quite yet. I will in a minute. Not gonna walk through the timing locations yet, but I will set up the scored events. So I have 2 events on RunSignup, 2-person teams and 4-person teams. I use quick setup that will automatically set up the shells that I need for my scored events. 2-person teams, always selecting a 2-person team registration event. 4-person teams, selecting the 4-person teams event. Looking good. So you could customize all these different toggles and things. We're not going to do that today. I am going to say that the gun time was 9 a.m. just so the app doesn't holler at me when it sees, hey, you don't have a gun time assigned and you're scoring some people. So let's just get this saved. And now once I've saved it, I'm able to click this team scoring button. So I go into the, well, actually, let me just demonstrate this first. So now I can go into the reports and I can see I have these overall reports. And like I said before, this isn't necessarily what I want. This is a system thinking that these are going to be like an overall 5K where all the members are listed by themselves. So if I were to go in here and go to, display non-finishers and non-starters just so I can get a preview, it's going to list out the individuals in the 2-person relay. And in the 4-person, it's going to do the same. It's going to, oops. Oh, it won't do that for this one because all of those people don't have a bib number. So I'm just going to check that box just to demonstrate. So it'll list out all of the members, which is not what I want, right? I want teams. This is not right. So that's why we have to go in and say that I'm doing team scoring for this event. And it's going to be relay. And I have to get rid of all of those reports that were defaulted in. So let's go and set up team scoring. So for the 2-person teams, click team scoring. I'm going to select relay here. This kind of explains to you what relay teams mean. If you ever see the green underline, there's a tooltip somewhere that explains what they're talking about. In this one, I do have team members sharing the same bib number, so that looks good. And now it's going to say, hey, I see you got an individual report. I'm going to delete it because it doesn't make any sense to have in a relay event, right? So I'm going to go ahead and say, yeah, that sounds good. And now it's going to say, hey, I see a bunch of team types associated with this. Do you want me to apply these new rules you set? Yeah, I do. I'm going to update all of these team types. Okay, and so successfully updated 3 team types. Perfect. So I'm going to do the same for my 4-person teams. And I'm going to say relay, and the team members have the same bib number. So do the same thing. Now these team types are going to get updated again, but the relay stuff doesn't matter too much. Now, if you had a situation where like the 2-person team event had, was sharing bib numbers and the 4-person team was not, I suppose you could use this, make no changes, but most of the time the rules are shared between if you share the team types between sport events. And honestly, if you had different scoring rules, you probably want separate group types anyways. But okay, so I've successfully updated my 3 team types, and I'm going to go ahead and save this, make sure all of my changes were applied, and we should be good to go. So now if I go to reports, I see I have a 2-person team's relay report. Now that's what I want. Let's go take a look. If I now edit this report, you can see, first of all, it's combining everything together. I've got co-ed teams, all male teams, all female teams, all in one category, all in one report section. So let's go ahead and just put in my separate scoring by group type or team type. So I'm going to add for the 4-person teams, that's what I'm working on, new team summary section, this time just co-ed. And just do it again. I'm going to say all male, and then do it again and say all female. So now I have 4 report sections. This one here is going to have all teams. This is going to be co-ed teams. This is going to be all male teams. This is going to be all female teams. So let's go and just update these section titles. If you click edit here, it will allow you to say what you want this to show as this report section header. So I'm going to say all teams, right? Don't care about team type in this one. And the next one, I'm going to say co-ed teams. Well, actually, I should probably do 4-person co-ed. That makes more sense. Because remember, these sections are going to be creating result sets on RunSignup, and we're going to use that name. Maybe 4-person relay. That sounds better, right? Cool. And now what I want to do, just so I can show you what it will look like, and it's good for you to know how to do this anyway, is what I was doing in the previous reports for the overall. I was just going into the filters and saying, hey, show me people who haven't started yet. And just because I want to get a preview of what this is going to look like without times. This is also super handy if you're wanting to do a race with a bunch of segments and you want to show like the runners in progress at RunSignup. You will want to show non-finishers, right? Because you want to see like who's out on course. So it's really, really good and really handy to know how to do this. So I've got all my report sections, and they're all going to be showing everybody in progress or non-starters. And so if I go into here, I can see, oh, I don't have any, I only have like all male, and I only have all male teams in the actual 4-person, because we have a lot of male developers on in RaceDay scoring, I guess. The 2-person were the ones with a female team. So if I go into the 2-persons and do the same, I'm going to add in the all female, customize it, show non finishers. That'll show in Shelly and Chelsea team. Okay, so now I have some reports that I have added in some different things to. I'm going to go ahead and just remove those non-finisher settings because I want to actually put some results in. Oops. It's important for teams, especially relay teams, to include teams without a bib number. That's defaulted to on, because if you don't have team bib and you're using individual bib, it would not show teams without a bib number. And like in our situation, we have some teams that don't have a team bib number, right? So we don't want to remove those from our setup. All right, so let's go back through and adjust all of these. All right. So now what I want to do is go ahead and set up RunSignup results. So for RunSignup results, you go into autosave and just click here, and we will set up RunSignup autosave. So like I said before, what's cool about the way we did this for team results is we now automatically add separate result sets for each report section you have. So I'm only adding in one autosave in here, and you see just this one, and I click Save Settings. Now, if I go back into my autosave settings, you'll see, oh, I now have two, because I added two report sections to that report. Remember, I added the female one here. So now it's going to put up a result set for all my teams combined and one result set for all my female teams only. I'm going to do the same for my 4-persons. And here you see I got 4 result sets. And it created, you can see here, 4 IDs for my result sets. And now I'm able to customize those. If I needed to, I could change something about each individual result set. So now if I go over here and click my live results links, I'll see that I now have all of these different result sets created. I've got 2-person teams, relay report, team finisher list, 2-person teams, these two I didn't customize the name of, but these ones I did. So it was like 4-person male, 4-person, yeah. So it's got all the stuff I need. So now if I go in, I can start plugging some numbers into here. So remember, I had these two with individual bib numbers and these ones with group bib numbers. So let's just go in and manually add some times, right? Let's add some 101s. So in the raw reads, you can always add a raw read in. So you always have to select a timing device here or a stream. We don't have any right now because this isn't a real race. So I'm just going to go ahead and just create a faked out manual stream just so I can add some stuff in manually. So this is like the only time I ever use this manual stream type option. Put it on my finish. I'm not going to care about starts today. And now I can go back to raw reads and I'm able to select this manual device, say bib 101, defaults to today's or the date of the race, which is the 10th. And the start of the race was 9. So I'm just going to say, oops, let's just say 2 p.m. This is like a marathon distance, I think, when I set it up. Let's go ahead and submit reads. It tells me raw reads added successfully. Wait for recalculate all reads to finish before adding any other reads. If I exit out, I'll see that I have Roger and Michael got a finish time. It's showing my finisher progress reports going up. And it says that, I now have one finisher of my 2-person team event. So I can go and see here that I've got Roger and Michael have finished. If I had some other, starters in here or whatever, it would show that I had a, somebody in progress. But right now it's just a single finish read, so I can't show you really in progress. Let's just add in another one. So 102, if you remember correctly, was the team that had individual bib numbers instead of team bib numbers. So let's take a look at what that looks like. Put them at 3 p.m. And you can see that they will come in as Shelly and Chelsea, just fine. So I go into the two persons, and I see Shelly and Chelsea and Roger and Michael. Now you'll notice I have the team bib column isn't accurate for them, so it doesn't fill in the bib number. In the case where you had individual bib numbers being used, you'll probably want to edit this report and add the individual bib number instead of the team bib number. We just have to presume that you're using team bib number, so that's what we do. If you ever needed to adjust it, again, go ahead, customize your report, and we can say, I want to actually show individual bib here. You could do that. Or if you really had a race where you were mixing individual and team bib assignments, which I highly would not suggest doing, but I guess you could add in both. Totally fine. It's up to you. So in the actions edit, I would go into add columns, and I could say I want to put a bib number in here in addition to my team bib. Save my report, and I've got bib here. Now it's probably going to yell at me for some reason, but it's all possible if you need to do that. So that is my little overview of RelayTeams. We got about 15 more minutes before close out for today. So I guess, Chris, were there any other questions or things that you think I should go through before we sign off?
No, we had a couple other follow-up questions on that same topic about reports for people that didn't qualify for the team, but otherwise, no other questions.
Cool. Yeah. So that the settings in RunSignup, if I said I want to have a max number of members, it's going to restrict that from ever happening. So they couldn't actually register. It'll say, hey, it's already reached their max number. And in RaceDay scoring, we implemented the same validation. So if you were trying to assign a member to a group and they have hit that max, I think it's going to yell at you and say, hey, you can't do this. So you should never run into that problem. All right.
Yeah, and it's most events will actually not want those kind of settings on because it becomes restrictive for people to register, and so a lot of events do not want those.
Right. All right, so let's finish out the slides here. We already went through any questions we had. So before we head out for the day, we do have a few upcoming webinars. We have adjusted the content and added a new webinar. We have decided to break out the Aggregate Teams how-to into its own session on June 15th at 12 p.m. This will go into the specifics of setting up aggregate team scoring, corporate challenges or other races where you're adding up the times or positions of team members who are all running the same full distance of the event. That one will build on the knowledge we learned in this one. So we'll have some assumptions on knowing what team types are and how to set up team scoring rules, but it's going to dive into detail on the more complicated settings that are available to you for aggregate team scoring. Like, how do I want to rank my teams? Who counts towards the scoring and who doesn't count towards scoring, and so on. And then we're going to do a session on cross country, which will be specific to the cross country aggregate team scoring settings, like displacement rules, ghosted finishers, and all sorts of other things. So that will be on the 22nd of June. We'll push that one back. And for more info, you can always go to resources.runsignup.com/webinar calendar. And this is where you can register. And again, just, if you're here for the first time, if you want to learn more about RaceDay scoring, help.RaceDay scoring is a good resource, but highly suggest using the Get Help with a question mark here in the app itself. If you're working on a race setup and you want some input, you want to make sure that you're on the right track about something. Never feel like you're out there without a life support. We're always on the back end. We have a lot of great support people who assist timers every day with this stuff. So feel free to shoot us a note with your setup and say, hey, I feel like I'm doing this right, but I'm not sure. We're more than happy to help you out. And if you do want to have a more one-on-one type session, Chris is our go-to training expert. you haven't had a chat with him yet, he's great about recommending best practices, or if you have some complicated scenario that you're not sure how to get started with, Crisp is a great resource to be able to get you on the right track. So big thing, if you're looking to book a time with Crisp, try to have a specific scenario picked out or topics to discuss prepared beforehand, so we're not going into it open-ended. It's really helpful to us just to be able to, have a really neat and tidy session to go over with you. So try to prepare like, oh, I scored this race last year. I want to see if I can do it in RaceDay scoring this year. If you have a race in like files, that's perfect. That will like make the session really, really fruitful for both of you guys. So you can use this link here, calendly.com/RSU RaceDay tools. And I believe that is all I have for today. So unless there is anything else, I will talk to you guys next week. All right, sounds like pretty quiet on the questions front. So thanks again, everyone. And like I said, talk to you next week. It will be good to hear from you soon. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Talk to you later.